there's nothing like getting under the hood of a car. I'm telling you, it puts me in heaven. That's right. You can give me a wrench, and I am ready to go. Well, even if you're not all that handy with cars, on today's show, we're going to have some terrific tips for simple auto fixes that anyone can do. That and a whole lot more coming up on Typical Mary Ellen. Hi everybody, welcome to the show. Now in a little while we're going to have those tips for simple auto fixes. But first, when you normally crack open an egg, you probably think of the yolk as the best part, right? Well, as it turns out, you can do some really great things in the kitchen with the whites all by themselves. No yolk. Ha ha ha. Well, here with some terrific tips for cooking egg whites is our good friend and professional cook, Colleen Miner. No yolk. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you.
And the yolk does taste pretty good, but the whites are better for you.
They're much better for you. All the fat, all the cholesterol is concentrated in the yolk, and although it's wonderful, I love egg whites. I love them. I know
you've got to convince me because I think they're bland and it's kind of boring.
You know what? I've got so much to tell you about egg whites.
Okay,
we just better get started. And I think the first thing we have to start with, of course, is the egg and how to separate egg whites from egg yolks. Here's the tip. Separate your eggs cold. Okay? Notice when you're cold, the eggs, the membranes in the eggs are closer together, which means you're going to have more luck and less breakage. Okay, you want to get your hand out there? You want to go through the hand?
That's that's
excellent way to do it. Okay, so now
some people go, yeah, can I go? Okay. Well, if you got clean hands.
Now hold that for a minute.
Okay, hold this. All right, I'm holding it.
Okay, now put the yolk in there and we'll put it away because we're not going to worry about yolks today. Yes,
that's a great tip when you have a lot of eggs to separate.
So separate them cold, but whip them warm.
Okay.
Because now you're going to get more volume as they warm up and those membranes loosen up, take more air in. How do you get them warm? It's not safe to leave them on your counter for half a day to get them warm because that encourages bacterial growth. The best way to do it is I have put it over a water bath. I've got warm water in here. I'm going to put my egg whites in there and they're going to warm up in 15 minutes and then they're going to be good to go. So I'm going to move my water bath over here.
All right. Well, it can be tricky to whip up the whites.
It can be tricky to whip up the whites, and a lot of books will tell you about the beautiful copper bowl.
I wish my copper bowl looked that good.
I know. You know how to get a copper bowl looking this good?
How?
You put a little bit of salt, a little bit of vinegar in there, and swirl it around, and that'll clean up the copper bowl really well. So the reason you use a copper bowl is because you have a chemical reaction between the egg white and the copper that makes the volume greater. However, who's got a copper bowl?
It costs a lot of money.
So we don't have to.
I have one, but it looks terrible.
Away goes the copper bowl.
I just use my stainless steel.
Stainless steel bowl is great. I love to do this, not with a whisk, but with mixers, because it will take about 15 minutes to get the egg whites going where you want them to go. So a stand mixer is really a nice thing. Now, if you want good volume, most recipes call for cream of tartar. How many times do you use cream of tartar in a year?
I think the last 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, I think you have the cream of tartar you had.
I cleaned something with it.
Right.
I did.
So you can use a pinch of this, and that stabilizes the egg whites, but what they don't tell you is any acid will do that. So a splash of vinegar, less than 1/8 of a teaspoon, a little bit of salt will do the same thing, and a little bit of lemon juice. So if you don't have the cream of tartar, don't let that stop you. You can use
just
all
a
of
little
this
bit.
Stuff, just a pinch.
Okay, so we got warm
so
whites.
we've got warm whites. We put in a pinch, and now we have to add the sugar. And here's the formula. Now this is going to surprise you. For every egg white you use to get a meringue, you use 1/4 cup of sugar.
Well, that's good information.
I know, and it seems like a lot of sugar, and I can cut back a little bit, but you really have to stabilize the egg whites with the sugar. And then usually flavor it with something like vanilla. You could do peppermint or, so, you know,
Whatever.
if you love peppermint cookies.
So we turn this on, or
So
are they
turn
ready?
that on. They're about ready.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, they're beautiful.
Now they should get nice stiff peaks.
Here we go. Isn't that a beauty?
Shall I take it out?
You may.
Okay. Well,
Now here's another tip. When you're adding the sugar, add it about a tablespoon at a time. You don't want to deflate the eggs by adding lots of sugar on top of them. And the other thing is that if you add it slowly, that gives a chance for the sugar to dissolve, and then you don't get grainy meringues. Grainy meringues mean you've added the sugar too quickly.
so do you wait until it's peaked, or when?
Until it's peaked, it should look like beautiful fluffy clouds.
Okay.
So that's that. So now what we have in here is we've got our eggs, we've sugar, a little bit of vanilla, and now we're going to make our meringue cookies.
Low calorie.
Low cal. Very low cal. Absolutely no fat. I'm going to put it into a pastry bag. You don't have to have a pastry bag.
Are they easy to use?
They're very easy to use.
They sure make food look a lot
They
better.
do. And what you can do, sure they're easy to use. What you can do is don't worry about a pastry bag if you just want to make drop cookies. Are we ready? Oh,
Yes.
no, I can't do that yet.
Why?
Because I've got another tip that's very
Okay.
important, okay? Okay, we're going to make meringue cookies, and when my grandma made them, she said that you put them on a paper bag. You cut a paper bag and they'll peel right off. But grandma did not have recycled paper bags.
Okay.
And we only have recycled paper bags. So the paper bag, you may have heard this from a relative or in a cookbook, an old cookbook, doesn't
Get rid of
work
it.
anymore.
It's an
Doesn't work
obsolete
anymore.
tip that should be
Obsolete tip.
tossed out. So toss it out,
What we
colleague.
need instead is just parchment paper. And this is just a pure parchment paper. It's going to make your life so easy.
Oh, we love parchment
Okay,
paper.
so we're going to put this in the pastry bag,
Get rid of this stuff.
and we're going to twist the top and then just pipe it like that.
Cute.
You can do, what I love about this, you can do shapes.
So basically it's just meringue.
It's just meringue. When Megan graduated from high school, we did
her name.
Megan meringues
Oh.
like that. She just loved it.
Yeah.
But you know, you don't have to get that fancy. You can actually do just a drop meringue, make it into a little cup if you want to, or a cookie just like those cookies over there. That's my favorite. But the other thing you really need to know about meringues is how to bake them. Because they actually dry, so it takes a very long time. You put them in a low oven, like 200 degrees, 250 degrees for 2-3 hours. What I like to do is I like to bake them at night, put them in the oven, cook them for about 2 hours, and then leave them in the oven overnight. And then they're perfect and nice and dry and crunchy, just like
Okay,
that.
so at 200 degrees for a couple hours, turn the oven
Oven
off
off.
and go to bed.
Right.
And then get up in the morning and
And have great meringues. And of course, this mixture also goes on top of a luscious meringue pie. You know how to do that. Just swirl it around. We've been a little fancy over there with
well,
the
this one's
finished.
baked.
That's baked.
My grandmother made the greatest lemon meringue pie. And she always would see how high she could get the meringue. She'd have a contest with herself. And some of them, boy, you could really get them high.
And the only thing you have to remember to do is you have to remember to put the meringue all the way to the end of the crust,
Okay.
or else it's going to start shrinking in.
Right, it does, and it gets watery.
And it can get watery, so that's a good thing.
Now, another thing I want to ask you.
Yes.
If I wanted to cut more calories, I'm just calorie conscious
I
today.
know we are.
Could I use artificial sugar in these? There's a new type that you can use in baking.
It's funny you should ask that, because I woke up this morning with that very thought. They're very low in calories. That cookie is 20 calories, absolutely no fat grams. However, I was thinking about the brand new baking thing, and I was wondering if I could do it. Next time I see you, I'll let you know.
Okay.
I haven't tried it, but I'm going to.
I think you can.
Because we could get that down to 0, Marianne.
That's right. What a day that would be. That would be the greatest tip of all.
That would.
The greatest tip would be if we could get this
Down to
meringue pie
0.
down to 0. Oh, Colleen, you're so much fun. What a pal you are. You're coming back, aren't you?
I certainly
All
am.
right. Coming up next, we've got some handy, simple auto fixes. You don't want to miss it, so stay right there. glad you're back. You know, sometimes little things happen with our cars that aren't so big that they require an expensive trip to our mechanics. So with just a little know-how, you can fix those simple car issues yourself. And so to get some tips, our typical man in the scene, Joe Lovett, is with an auto expert. Joe?
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Today we're here at Hennepin Technical College and we're talking with Ford Asset instructor Drew Goddard. Drew, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Drew's going to be giving us some tips today on taking care of small common problems with our car. Drew, what's the first thing you're going to show us?
I'm going to show you how to replace a wiper blade.
Okay.
And it's a very simple procedure. What you need to do first is to measure the old one so you know what size to get. And this, just swing it out of the way and push the locking tab to remove it and slide it back and remove it just like that.
That comes off easily.
Yeah, take the new one out of the box and it just snaps right back in place.
Isn't it possible just to replace the rubber portion of the blade?
Yes, it is. On some older vehicles, it might be recommended that you just go ahead and replace the whole blade because over time the hinges in that get corroded and you lose the effectiveness of the blade on the windshield.
Okay. One problem that all of us have had at one time or another is locking our keys in our car. Do you have a solution for that?
One tip that you might want to use is actually hiding the key behind the license plate screw. And we happen to have one right here. And if you don't have a screw that has a slot in it, maybe get a slotted screw, and you can use a dime to back out the screw.
Right.
And once it gets loose, you can do it by hand. And the key is hidden right back here. And some of the openings here where the keychain goes through, you may have to size that out or enlarge that.
In order to match your...
In order for the screw even to go through it.
Okay.
So what you'd want to do is put it in a rag and mount it in a vise. And the rag will protect the key from getting damaged and put it in something sturdy in a vise. Put on safety glasses. And take a drill and just size the opening a little bit so then the screw can go through.
Another good tip. Well, let's lift the hood of this for our next tip. Now, a lot of people may be intimidated about doing work under their hood because, especially with new cars, they're not quite sure where everything is, are they?
Well, the manufacturers now are coding all the items that the owner would want to have access to, and for instance, this one is yellow. We have the dipstick right here, which is in yellow, and where you put the oil in is in yellow. The transmission dipstick tube, where you put the brake fluid, the power steering fluid, even the washer fluid for the windshield washers.
Anything the motorist would usually deal with is color-coded. They use yellow here, but other manufacturers might use other colors. Now, you had set aside a couple of bulbs over here and this piece of hose. What are we going to do with these?
Yeah, what this tubing or this piece of hose does is it allows you to safely replace the bulb, and also you can reach into places where maybe your hand can't fit. There's a couple different styles of bulbs that are out there. Some of the older style are a quarter, a twist, a push in and turn, and that's removed like that.
Okay.
And you put the new one in
The same way.
the same way. The other style is a blade style where you can pull it out like that, and then if you had a difficult time finding the socket, you can reach it in there and put it in like that.
And where would we find a hose like that?
Oh, you can get this at any local hardware store or home center.
Our next tip is on the exterior of the car. We come home, we find out that in the parking lot, somebody gave us a scratch. Is there a good quick fix for this?
Yeah, take ordinary color crayons and try to find a couple different colors that blend into the color of the car. And you can maybe do it in a couple different stages. Just kind of run it like here, right on the scratch. And take a clean rag and kind of carefully buff it in there. And you might have to do a couple different coats with different colors to get the color to match.
Now, does that do anything to the finish?
It not only fills in the scratch and matches it, but the wax in here begins to protect the new scratch.
Okay, Drew, final problem. We've got a door that freezes shut on us in the wintertime. What can we do about that?
Something you might want to try here is just applying vegetable oil right on the door seal. And what happens is when you wash your car in the wintertime or water will maybe get past the seal, this seal right here can actually freeze right against the door. So by putting a little bit of vegetable oil,
That helps keep the water from freezing?
it not only protects the seal, but you can also revitalize some of the older cars where you may have like a wind noise or that sort of thing, and just kind of condition the seal and run it like this and go all the way around the seal, and this can be even used in the trunk, on the seal in the trunk.
Well, that's a great final tip. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Don't go away, because when we come back, Mary Ellen's going to be up with some tips on ironing table linens. So stay with us.
Hi folks, welcome back. Well, I've got to admit it, ironing is not one of my favorite activities. How about you? Well, the way I feel about it, if you have to do it, and every so often you do, you might as well do it right. Well, we're going to iron a tablecloth, and I've got some great tips for you on that. But before we get started, here's a few tips you might need. Now you'll notice that as an ironing board cover, I'm just using a plain sheet. That's right. My old ironing board cover got dirty. I went out to buy a new one and I couldn't find the right size. Well, I remembered something my mother did. She always used 100% cotton sheet, and she would lay it over the pad, the original one, that was stained, and then she would securely pin it. And you know what? This makes a wonderful pad to make it easier to iron, but also you can use sizing, spray sizing, here it is, or spray starch. Now here's the difference. You use the starch if the fabric is 100% natural. If the fabric is a synthetic or a cotton blend, you would use the sizing. That's important information. Bet you didn't know that. Well, you do now. Alrighty, so today we're going to use some spray starch, and I'm going to use a steam iron, and I'm also going to use a little spray. All right, so here's a round tablecloth, and it's simple to iron.